The rain poured down in sheets, casting an eerie glow over the quiet suburban street. In the dim light, a shadowy figure moved with purpose, approaching the row of trash cans lining the curb. It was past midnight, but the HOA president, Karen Underwood, was on a mission. Glancing around furtively, Karen reached down and swiftly snatched up one of the cans, her lips curving into a triumphant smile. "That'll teach you to leave your cans out past pickup," she muttered, hurrying back to her car. What Karen didn't know was that her every move was being watched. Hidden in the shadows, a pair of eyes narrowed, a plan already forming. The next morning, as the sun rose over the neighborhood, Alex Finley stared at the empty spot where his trash can had been. Jaw clenched, he stormed out to the curb, scanning the area for any sign of the missing container. "This is ridiculous," he growled, marching back inside to call the HOA. After a terse exchange with Karen, who smugly informed him that he'd been fined for the infraction, Alex slammed down the phone, his mind racing. Asterisk, no way I'm letting that power-hungry witch get away with this asterisk. Determined to get to the bottom of the HOA's underhanded tactics, Alex set to work. He began meticulously documenting every interaction, recording phone calls, and gathering evidence of the organization's questionable practices. As the days passed, a pattern emerged. The HOAs seemed to be targeting certain homeowners, enforcing obscure rules and levying harsh penalties. Asterisk, there has to be more to this than just trash cans, asterisk, Alex thought, his suspicion growing. One night, as he was reviewing the latest round of fines, a flicker of movement outside caught his eye. Peering through the window, Alex spotted Karen approaching his property, trash can in hand. Without hesitation, he grabbed his camera and rushed outside, determined to catch her in the act. "What do you think you're doing?" he demanded, confronting the HOA president as she bent to replace the can. Karen's eyes widened momentarily, but she quickly recovered, putting on a saccharine smile. "Why, Alex, I was simply returning your trash can. You know how important it is to follow the HOA guidelines." "Cut the crap, Karen," Alex snapped, leveling his camera at her. "I know you're behind this. Now, why don't you tell me what's really going on?" For a moment, the two locked eyes, the air thick with tension. Then, Karen's expression hardened, and she turned to leave. "You're making a big mistake, Alex," she called over her shoulder. "I'd be careful if I were you." As Karen disappeared into the night, Alex's gaze drifted to the trash can, a faint glint catching his eye. Bending down, he examined the container more closely, and his breath caught in his throat. Nestled in the shadows, a tiny camera lens stared back at him. Alex's fingers trembled as he carefully removed the hidden camera from the trash can, his mind racing with the implications. Asterisk, this goes far beyond just trash cans, asterisk, he thought, his heart pounding. Clutching the device, he hurried back inside, determined to uncover the truth. Connecting the camera to his laptop, Alex began sifting through the footage, his eyes widening with each passing minute. The HOA had been monitoring the entire neighborhood, capturing every movement, every interaction. It was a web of surveillance, and he was at the center of it. Asterisk, they're watching us all, asterisk, he realized, a chill running down his spine. Asterisk, but why asterisk? As he delved deeper into the footage, a disturbing pattern emerged. The HOA seemed to be targeting specific homeowners, systematically enforcing obscure rules and levying harsh fines. But it wasn't just about control. There was a sinister undercurrent to their actions, a web of corruption that ran deep. Jaw set, Alex knew he had to act. He began compiling his evidence, meticulously documenting every infraction, every questionable decision made by the HOA. But as he delved further into the organization's activities, he realized the true scope of the problem. The HOA wasn't just a power-hungry entity, it was a well-oiled machine, its tendrils reaching into every corner of the neighborhood. Homeowners who dared to challenge the rules were swiftly silenced, their lives appended by a barrage of fines and legal threats. I can't do this alone, Alex thought, panic rising in his chest. Need help. Determined to expose the HOA's corruption, he reached out to his neighbors, sharing his findings and rallying them to action. At first, the response was tepid, with many homeowners too afraid to defy the all-powerful organization. But as Alex continued to uncover the depths of the HOA's misdeeds, a small group of like-minded individuals began to emerge, united in their desire for justice. Together, they formed a plan of attack, leveraging the HOA's own rules and regulations against it. They pored over bylaws, uncovering loopholes and technicalities that could be used to challenge the organization's authority. And as they began to chip away at the HOA's power, a new sense of empowerment took hold. But the HOA was not about to go down without a fight. As Alex and his allies made their moves, the organization responded with an escalating series of retaliatory actions, using every trick in the book to intimidate and silence them. Suddenly, Alex's home was inundated with fines and violation notices, his mailbox overflowing with threats of legal action. The HOA's reach seemed to extend everywhere, and he found himself constantly looking over his shoulder, wondering when the next attack would come. Yet, even as the pressure mounted, Alex refused to back down. He knew that the fate of the entire neighborhood hung in the balance, and he was determined to see this fight through to the end. I won't let them win, he vowed, his resolve hardening with each passing day. Not after everything I've uncovered, As the battle raged on, the neighborhood transformed into a battlefield, a war zone where every inch of ground was fiercely contested. Neighbors who had once been strangers now banded together, united in their fight against the tyrannical HOA. And at the center of it all stood Alex, his eyes burning with a fierce determination that refused to be extinguished. The stakes had never been higher, and the fate of the entire community hung in the balance. But Alex was undaunted, his mind racing with new strategies, new ways to outmaneuver the HOA and expose its dark secrets to the world. This isn't over, he thought, his grip tightening on the hidden camera. Not by a long shot, The streets of the once quiet suburban neighborhood were now alive with tension, as homeowners banded together in a high-stakes battle against the all-powerful HOA. At the center of the conflict stood Alex Finley, a determined and strategic genius who had uncovered the organization's web of corruption and surveillance. Armed with the incriminating footage from the hidden camera, Alex began to meticulously piece together his case, enlisting the help of his newfound allies. Together, they pored over the HOA's bylaws and regulations, searching for any loopholes or technicalities that could be exploited. As they delved deeper into the organization's activities, a disturbing pattern emerged. The HOA was not just about enforcing arbitrary rules and levying fines. It was a well-oiled machine, driven by a sinister agenda of control and manipulation. "They're not just targeting us," Alex said, his eyes narrowing with determination. "They're systematically monitoring the entire neighborhood, using these hidden cameras to keep tabs on everyone." The revelation sent a chill through the group as they grappled with the implications of such a vast and intrusive surveillance network. But Alex refused to be cowed, his mind already racing with strategies to outsmart the HOA and expose its corruption. "We have to hit them where it hurts," he said, his voice low and intense. "And that means going after their finances." The group sprang into action, meticulously combing through the HOA's financial records, searching for any irregularities or misappropriation of funds. And as they dug deeper, a shocking truth began to emerge. The organization was siphoning money from the community, using the collected fines and fees to line the pockets of its corrupt leadership. "They're embezzling," one of the homeowners exclaimed, her eyes wide with disbelief. Alex nodded, his expression grim. "And that's not all. I've found evidence that they're using the funds to bribe local officials, ensuring that their illegal activities remain hidden from the public eye. The revelations sent shockwaves through the group as they realized the true extent of the HOA's corruption. But even as the weight of the task ahead threatened to overwhelm them, Alex remained steadfast, his mind already formulating a plan of attack. "We need to go public with this," he said, his voice steady. "We need to expose the HOA's misdeeds to the entire community, and then take our case to the authorities." The homeowners hesitated, their eyes filled with uncertainty. "But what if the HOA retaliates?" one of them asked, her voice trembling. "We've already seen how ruthless they can be." Alex's gaze hardened. "I know the risks," he said, "but we have no choice. This has gone on for too long, and we have to put a stop to it, no matter the cost." Sensing the group's wavering resolve, Alex stepped forward, his eyes burning with a fierce determination. "Look, I know this is scary," he said, his voice low and intense. "But we're in this together, and we're going to win. We have the evidence, we have the law on our side, and we have each other. We can't let the HOA bully us anymore." The words seemed to ignite a spark within the group, and one by one, the homeowners nodded, their expressions resolute. "Let's do this," they said, their voices rising in a chorus of defiance. And with that, the plan was set in motion, a high-stakes gambit that would pit the united neighborhood against the seemingly invincible HOA. The stakes had never been higher, and the future of the community hung in the balance. But Alex was undaunted, his mind already racing with the next move. This is our chance to take back control, he thought, his lips curving into a determined smile. And I'm not going to let anything or anyone stop us, The tension in the neighborhood was palpable as the homeowners prepared to take their fight against the corrupt HOA public. Alex Finley, the strategic mastermind leading the charge, knew that they were treading on dangerous ground, but he was more determined than ever to expose the organization's dark secrets. Armed with the incriminating footage from the hidden camera and the damning financial records, the group began to meticulously craft their public campaign. They reached out to local media outlets, pitching their story as a David versus Goliath battle for the heart and soul of the community. "This isn't just about trash cans or fines," Alex said, his voice steady and confident as he addressed the reporters. "The HOA has been systematically abusing its power, using surveillance and intimidation tactics to maintain its stranglehold over the neighborhood." The news of the HOA's corruption quickly spread, capturing the attention of the local residents and drawing them into the fight. Slowly but surely, more and more homeowners began to rally behind Alex and his team, emboldened by the prospect of finally standing up to the tyrannical organization. But as the momentum built, the HOA responded with an escalating series of retaliatory actions, determined to silence the uprising before it gained too much traction. Suddenly, the neighborhood was inundated with a barrage of violation notices and fines, each one more outrageous than the last. Homeowners who had joined the fight found themselves targeted, their lives turned upside down by the HOA's relentless onslaught. "They're trying to intimidate us," Alex said, his eyes narrowing with determination. "But we can't back down now. We have to keep pushing forward." Undeterred, the group continued to press their case, leveraging the media attention and the growing public support to their advantage. They organized town hall meetings, inviting the entire community to hear their story and join the fight against the HOA. The events were a resounding success, drawing hundreds of concerned residents who were eager to take a stand against the organization's abuses. And as the momentum continued to build, the HOA found itself on the defensive, its once iron grip on the neighborhood slowly beginning to slip. But the HOA was not about to surrender without a fight. Desperate to maintain its power, the organization began to pull out all the stops, using its deep pockets and extensive legal resources to wage a war of attrition against the homeowners. Suddenly, the group found themselves besieged by a barrage of lawsuits, each one more frivolous and costly than the last. The HOA's lawyers were relentless, dragging the case through the courts and exhausting the homeowners' resources. "They're trying to bleed us dry," Alex said, his voice laced with frustration. "But we can't give up now. We're so close to exposing the truth." Rallying the community, the group refused to back down, pouring their time, energy, and resources into the fight. They organized fundraisers, solicited donations, and even reached out to sympathetic politicians and legal experts for support. And as the battle raged on, the neighborhood transformed into a veritable war zone, with the HOA and the homeowners locked in a high-stakes game of cat and mouse. The stakes had never been higher, and the fate of the entire community hung in the balance. But through it all, Alex remained steadfast, his mind constantly churning with new strategies and tactics to outmaneuver the HOA. He knew that the organization was desperate, and that their desperation could lead to dangerous and unpredictable actions. Asterisk, they won't stop until they've crushed us. Asterisk, he thought, his jaw set with determination. Asterisk, but I'm not going to let that happen. Asterisk. The battle lines had been drawn, and the war between the homeowners and the corrupt HOA was reaching a fever pitch. With the public's attention firmly focused on the unfolding drama, Alex Finley and his allies knew that they were running out of time to expose the organization's dark secrets before it was too late. Undeterred by the relentless barrage of lawsuits and legal maneuvers from the HOA, the group continued to press their case, leveraging every tool at their disposal to chip away at the organization's stranglehold on the neighborhood. "They're pulling out all the stops," Alex said, his eyes narrowing with determination. "But we can't back down now. We're so close to bringing them down." Rallying the community, the homeowners organized a series of town hall meetings, inviting residents to come together and share their own experiences with the HOA's abuses. The response was overwhelming, as homeowner after homeowner stepped forward to recount tales of intimidation, harassment, and outright corruption. "They fined me for having a single weed in my garden," one resident said, her voice trembling with anger. "And when I tried to challenge it, they threatened to foreclose on my home." As the stories poured in, the group's case against the HOA only grew stronger, and the public's outrage began to reach a fever pitch. Sensing the tide turning against them, the organization grew increasingly desperate, resorting to ever more underhanded tactics to maintain their grip on power. Suddenly, the homeowners found themselves the targets of a series of coordinated smear campaigns, with the HOA's allies in the local media launching a relentless barrage of negative coverage. The attacks were vicious and personal, targeting the group's character and credibility in an attempt to discredit their efforts. "They're trying to bury us in a wave of misinformation," Alex said, his expression grim. "But we can't let them. We have to keep fighting, no matter what they throw at us." Determined to turn the tide, the homeowners redoubled their efforts, leveraging their growing public support to counter the HOA's propaganda. They organized press conferences, held rallies, and flooded social media with their message, refusing to be silenced in the face of the organization's intimidation tactics. And as the battle raged on, the stakes only continued to rise. The HOA, sensing the threat to its power, began to escalate its actions, resorting to increasingly desperate and dangerous measures to maintain control. Suddenly, the homeowners found themselves the targets of a series of mysterious break-ins and vandalism, with their homes and properties being targeted in a coordinated campaign of terror. The attacks were clearly the work of the HOA, but proving it would be an uphill battle. "They're trying to scare us into submission," Alex said, his voice laced with a mixture of fear and determination. "But we can't let them win. We have to keep pushing forward, no matter what they throw at us." Rallying the community, the homeowners worked tirelessly to document the attacks, gathering evidence, and building their case against the HOA. And as the pressure mounted, the organization's tactics only grew more desperate and more ruthless. Suddenly, the group found themselves the targets of a series of trumped-up charges, with the HOA's allies in the local government moving to have them arrested and jailed. The accusations were baseless, but the threat of incarceration loomed large over the homeowners, who knew that their fight for justice could cost them everything. They're pulling out all the stops, Alex said, his eyes burning with a fierce determination. But we can't give up now. We're too close to the truth. As the high-stakes battle raged on, the neighborhood became a veritable war zone, with the homeowners and the HOA locked in a desperate struggle for the future of their community. The stakes had never been higher, and the fate of the entire neighborhood hung in the balance. The once quiet suburban neighborhood had been transformed into a battlefield, as the homeowners, led by the strategic genius Alex Finley, continued their high-stakes fight against the corrupt HOA. The stakes had never been higher, and the fate of the entire community hung in the balance. Undeterred by the HOA's increasingly desperate and ruthless tactics, the group remained steadfast in their determination to expose the organization's dark secrets. They had weathered a barrage of lawsuits, smear campaigns, and even physical attacks, but their resolve only seemed to grow stronger with each passing day. They're pulling out all the stops, but we can't back down now, Alex said, his voice low and intense. We're too close to the truth to give up. As the battle raged on, the homeowners continued to leverage their growing public support to counter the HOA's propaganda. They organized press conferences, rallied the community, and flooded social media with their message, refusing to be silenced in the face of the organization's intimidation tactics. But the HOA was not about to give up without a fight. Sensing the threat to its power, the organization escalated its actions, resorting to increasingly dangerous measures to maintain control. Suddenly, the homeowners found themselves the targets of a series of mysterious break-ins and vandalism, with their homes and properties being targeted in a coordinated campaign of terror. The attacks were clearly the work of the HOA, but proving it would be an uphill battle. They're trying to scare us into submission, Alex said, his voice laced with a mixture of fear and determination. But we can't let them win. We have to keep pushing forward, no matter what they throw at us. Rallying the community, the homeowners worked tirelessly to document the attacks, gathering evidence, and building their case against the HOA. And as the pressure mounted, the organization's tactics only grew more desperate and more ruthless. Suddenly, the group found themselves the targets of a series of trumped-up charges, with the HOA's allies in the local government moving to have them arrested and jailed. The accusations were baseless, but the threat of incarceration loomed large over the homeowners, who knew that their fight for justice could cost them everything. They're pulling out all the stops, Alex said, his eyes burning with a fierce determination. But we can't give up now. We're too close to the truth. As the high-stakes battle raged on, the homeowners refused to be cowed, continuing to press their case and expose the HOA's corruption. They leveraged every tool at their disposal, from legal maneuvers to grassroots organizing, in a desperate bid to break the organization's stranglehold on the neighborhood. And just when it seemed that the group was running out of options, a breakthrough came in the form of an unexpected ally, a disgruntled former HOA board member who had witnessed the organization's misdeeds firsthand. I couldn't keep silent any longer, the whistleblower said, his voice trembling with a mixture of fear and conviction. The things I've seen, the corruption, the abuse of power, it's got to stop. With the whistleblower's testimony and the incriminating evidence that the homeowners had gathered, the case against the HOA began to take on a new urgency. The public's outrage only continued to grow, and the pressure on the organization mounted with each passing day. But the HOA was not about to go down without a fight. Desperate to maintain its grip on power, the organization unleashed its most dangerous and unpredictable tactic yet, a series of targeted attacks on the homeowners, designed to sow fear and division within the community. They're not playing by the rules anymore, Alex said, his eyes narrowing with a grim determination. But we can't back down now. We have to keep fighting, no matter what they throw at us. As the high-stakes battle reached a fever pitch, the fate of the entire neighborhood hung in the balance. The stakes had never been higher, and the homeowners knew that the path ahead would be treacherous and fraught with peril. The battle between the homeowners and the corrupt HOA had reached a fever pitch, with both sides pulling out all the stops in their desperate bid for control. The stakes had never been higher, and the fate of the entire neighborhood hung in the balance. Undeterred by the HOA's increasingly dangerous and unpredictable tactics, Alex Finley and his allies continued to press their case, determined to expose the organization's dark secrets and bring it down once and for all. The breakthrough came in the form of an unexpected ally, a disgruntled former HOA board member who had witnessed the organization's misdeeds firsthand. With the whistleblower's testimony and the incriminating evidence that the homeowners had gathered, the case against the HOA began to take on a new urgency. "This is our chance to take them down," Alex said, his eyes burning with a fierce determination. "We can't let them get away with this." Rallying the community, the homeowners launched a relentless campaign to bring the HOA's corruption to light. They held press conferences, flooded social media with their message, and even enlisted the help of sympathetic politicians and legal experts. But as the pressure mounted, the HOA responded with a series of targeted attacks designed to sow fear and division within the community. Suddenly, the homeowners found themselves the targets of a wave of vandalism, break-ins, and even physical violence. "They're not playing by the rules anymore," Alex said, his voice laced with a mixture of fear and determination. "But we can't back down now. We have to keep fighting, no matter what they throw at us." Rallying the community, the homeowners worked tirelessly to document the attacks, gathering evidence and building their case against the HOA. And as the pressure mounted, the organization's tactics only grew more desperate and more ruthless. Suddenly, the group found themselves the targets of a series of trumped-up charges, with the HOA's allies in the local government moving to have them arrested and jailed. The accusations were baseless, but the threat of incarceration loomed large over the homeowners, who knew that their fight for justice could cost them everything. "They're trying to break us," Alex said, his voice barely above a whisper. "But we can't let them win. We have to keep fighting, no matter what the cost." Determined to turn the tide, the homeowners redoubled their efforts, leveraging their growing public support to counter the HOA's propaganda. They organized rallies, flooded social media with their message, and even reached out to the media, desperate to get their story out to the world. And as the battle raged on, the stakes only continued to rise. The HOA, sensing the threat to its power, began to escalate its actions, resorting to increasingly dangerous and unpredictable measures to maintain control. Suddenly, the homeowners found themselves the targets of a series of mysterious attacks, with their homes and properties being targeted in a coordinated campaign of terror. The assaults were brutal and unrelenting, leaving the community living in a state of constant fear and paranoia. "They're trying to break us," Alex said, his voice laced with a mixture of exhaustion and determination. "But we can't give up now. We have to keep fighting, no matter what they throw at us." Rallying the community, the homeowners worked tirelessly to document the attacks, gathering evidence and building their case against the HOA. And as the pressure mounted, the organization's tactics only grew more desperate and more ruthless. Suddenly, the group found themselves the targets of a series of trumped-up charges, with the HOA's allies in the local government moving to have them arrested and jailed. The accusations were baseless, but the threat of incarceration loomed large over the homeowners, who knew that their fight for justice could cost them everything. "They're trying to break us," Alex said, his voice barely above a whisper. "But we can't let them win. We have to keep fighting, no matter what the cost." The battle between the homeowners and the corrupt HOA had reached a fever pitch, with both sides engaged in a high-stakes game of cat and mouse. The stakes had never been higher, and the fate of the entire neighborhood hung in the balance. Undeterred by the HOA's increasingly desperate and ruthless tactics, Alex Finley and his allies refused to back down. They had weathered a barrage of lawsuits, smear campaigns, and even physical attacks, but their resolve only seemed to grow stronger with each passing day. Now, as the group found themselves the targets of a series of trumped-up charges, the threat of incarceration loomed large over them. But Alex knew that they couldn't afford to give up, not when they were so close to exposing the HOA's corruption. "They're trying to break us," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "But we can't let them win. We have to keep fighting, no matter what the cost." Rallying the community, the homeowners launched a last-ditch effort to bring the HOA's misdeeds to light. They organized a massive public event, inviting the entire neighborhood to come together and hear the whistleblower's testimony. The turnout was overwhelming, as hundreds of residents packed the community center, their eyes burning with a mixture of fear and determination. And as the whistleblower took the stage, the air was thick with tension. "The things I've seen," the former HOA board member said, his voice trembling, "the corruption, the abuse of power, it's got to stop. This organization is a cancer, and it's eating away at the heart of our community." The crowd erupted into a chorus of gasps and murmurs, their eyes wide with shock and disbelief. And as the whistleblower continued to lay bare the HOA's dark secrets, the homeowners felt a surge of hope. But just as the momentum was building, the HOA struck back with a vengeance. Suddenly, the community center was swarming with armed guards, their faces hidden behind masks and their movements swift and ruthless. "This is a violation of our civil rights," Alex shouted, his voice cutting through the chaos. "You can't do this." But the guards paid him no heed, their focus fixed on the homeowners. And as they began to systematically round up the attendees, Alex knew that they were running out of time. Thinking quickly, he grabbed the whistleblower and ushered him out a back exit, narrowly evading the HOA's goons. But as they fled, Alex couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. "We have to get this information out," the whistleblower said, his voice tinged with a mixture of fear and urgency. "If we don't, they'll bury the truth for good." Nodding grimly, Alex knew that they were running out of options. The HOA had shown its true colors, and it was clear that they would stop at nothing to maintain their grip on power. But even as the walls closed in around them, Alex refused to give up. He knew that the truth was on their side, and that if they could just get the evidence to the right people, they might have a chance at taking down the HOA once and for all. Clutching the damning documents in his hands, Alex hurried through the rain-soaked streets, his heart pounding with a mixture of fear and determination. He knew that the road ahead would be treacherous, but he was willing to risk everything to save his community. As he made his way to the rendezvous point, a sense of foreboding crept into his mind. Had the HOA discovered their plan? Were they being followed? But just as he was about to turn back, a familiar face emerged from the shadows, a glimmer of hope in their eyes. "We've got your back, Alex," the person said, their voice low and intense. "Let's take these bastards down." And with that, Alex knew that the fight was far from over. The battle lines had been drawn, and the fate of the entire neighborhood hung in the balance.